Well, good Monday morning to you, and welcome to our Monday morning live edition of the Doctor's Nutrition Show. I'm your host, Jim Tabor, along with Drs. Jim and Janine Fox of Doctor's Nutrition, located on Cowan Road in Gulfport, just south of Pash Road. We do this every Monday morning, and it is a live show in which we have a topic. We invite you to call in and ask questions regarding that topic, regarding health, or any health issues that you may be dealing with or a loved one may be dealing with that you have a question about. And our phone lines are 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. You can give us a call, pass the question along to our producers, and they will pass it along to us. This morning we're talking about a problem that seems to be getting worse and worse, and that is childhood obesity in the United States is putting children and adolescents at a high risk for poor health. What are some of the contributing factors to childhood obesity?
Well, we're going to be talking, that's the whole show is going to be talking about that, but things that contributed to it, you have to go back to the beginning and start, when it started. Because if we look at the statistics, go back to when you and I were kids, okay, we didn't have the problem. Like 5% of the population of adolescents were a little bit overweight or maybe obese, or less than. Today,
in the 60s is
in
what
the
they
60s,
say. In the 60s, about
70s.
5%.
Yeah.
Now, in my era,
Like 18% now.
well, no, it's way higher.
Way higher.
In my era, they say in the 80s and 90s, it went up to 15%. So it was 3 times higher when I was in school. Now, it's up to like 22 to 25%, depending on whose statistic you look at.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that is who is obese, not at risk for obesity, because
Right.
there's a lot that fall in that range where they're overweight, but not quite called obese yet. That's just obese.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so
when-
it's actually, it is greatly rising.
Yeah, and so contributing factor, go back to when our illustrious government and somebody in that government decided that we needed to be a low-fat nation. And they put out the food pyramid. Remember the food pyramid
Yeah,
first?
yeah.
Well, they since changed that. Now it's a plate, same thing.
Back in the 70s or something.
Yeah.
74.
Yeah.
74, okay.
74, they decided we're going to do, we're seeing an experiment played out over 40-something years where they fed everybody low fat, no fat. They've got people petrified to eat fat. And what happened? America's gotten fatter, more obese, more diabetes, and diabetes is just astronomical.
Because when you don't eat fat, you tend to eat more sugar. And
Right.
Sugar,
sugar
carbs.
really is the problem. I mean,
Yeah.
when you look, sugar and high carbohydrate diet is really the problem with obesity, because it's all about the insulin. And if you eat more sugar, your body has to produce more insulin in order to keep your sugar down. And that insulin, one of its other jobs is to store fat. So the more sugar and carbs that you eat, the more insulin you have to make, and then you store more fat. And that's kind of fat, actually eating fat slows the absorption of the sugar and keeps the body from spiking the insulin.
Exactly.
So when everybody went fat-free, people are just overproducing insulin like crazy.
Wow.
So insulin, when you get to weight and weight loss and everything else, it really goes back to insulin.
And the things that drive it are the sugars and carbohydrates. And that's what they've told everybody. For instance, take yogurt, for God's sakes. You can't even you go to the grocery store, it's hard to find a yogurt that's just regular yogurt. It's low fat, no fat. No fat yogurt? Come on.
And sweetened, none of it's plain. It's all
Yeah, it's
got
all-
all the fruit and sugar and
Yeah.
everything in it. If you look, a lot of them you look and it's 20-something grams of, especially the no fat ones, 20-something grams of carbohydrates and sugar.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, you look and the food has changed.
Yeah.
Tremendously.
And the packaged processed food has also, of course, went crazy. Everybody eats packaged processed food,
Yeah.
and nobody eats at home anymore.
Yeah.
I think we already got a question.
All right. So many sugar substitutes are bad for you. What are healthy options to replace sugar?
You can do something like stevia.
That's what I do.
Stevia is a good one.
Or monk fruit.
Monk fruit's another one. Monk fruit probably has, most people will take it over stevia simply because it doesn't have any aftertaste. It's almost like real substitute for sugar. It's sweet.
Now, it ends up being a little bit more expensive than
It does,
stevia,
but-
because you have to use more of it. It's not
Yeah.
like a tiny, tiny bit like stevia. It's like 1-to-1. When
Yeah.
you look at the substitution of monk fruit, a teaspoon of sugar, a teaspoon of monk fruit. To where stevia is not anywhere close.
Oh, no.
A teaspoon of sugar is like a pinch.
Yeah.
So it's not much. So it is different. And I tell people, don't do everything sweet. Then you get to where you want everything
Yeah.
sweet. So the sweet taste is actually kind of addictive.
They've proven that we actually have an addictive pathway in our brain. for sugar. And it's the same pathway that cocaine does. So they actually took some patients at University of California at San Francisco, I believe it was, and they showed that people that are addicted to cocaine, what lights up in their brain when it happens, when they get cocaine, and they looked at the same people or same pathways with people that take in sugar. Brain lights up just the same. You couldn't tell the difference between whether is this cocaine or is this sugar. So it is very addictive, and like she said, if you got everything sweet, you lose sight of what real food tastes like. So if we can break that addiction, and it truly is an addiction, so they've got us addicted to it. So now we have to break an addiction.
And actually, the younger you start with the kids, the better.
Yeah.
I hear more people that come in that say, "Oh, well, the grandkids want this, they want that," and I'm like, you don't have to give it to them. They're not old enough to go buy it themselves. I mean, and it actually starts in really young kids. I mean, the kids get used to what you give them. And just like, I just find that even adults, what they grew up with is what they want later. It's actually what you're taught to eat is kind of so.
Right.
As parents and grandparents, especially, because we see a lot of grandparents give kids anything they want.
I was starting to say, always, kids go to grandma's house, you jack them up on sugar and send them home.
So you do want to start young and give them healthy food. If they get healthy food, I just had somebody tell me the other day, their grandkid or something, their parents said, "Well, they won't eat that." And she said it was vegetables, and she made it, and they ate it and loved it. And it was because they had never had it. They had never had it, and it was not prepared to where it tasted good. So you can't show them a vegetable and say, "Hey, you think you might want to eat this?" They're not going to know.
No.
What you do is you fix it.
They might not like the way it looks, but once they taste it.
Once they taste it, and if they get
tastes
used to it at a very young age, you're definitely better off. So people don't think about that. They're like, "Oh, well, they're little. We'll give them what they want." Well, no, that's not what you do.
It's like squash, sliced up squash and onions in a cast iron skillet.
Oh.
May not look that great,
but it is
It's really good.
Yeah. So the thing is you've got to start at a very young age, and it never too late to break them, but it's always easier if that's what they're used to.
Yeah.
And not to where they're used to everything sweet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. We're talking about childhood obesity this morning, and if you have any questions regarding that or anything regarding health, pick up the phone, give us a call. We're going to take a break and be right back. And welcome back. It's our Monday morning live edition of the Doctor's Nutrition Show. I'm Jim Tabor, your host, along with Drs. Jim and Janine Fox. And what we're talking about this morning is childhood obesity, the problems that it can cause and the health issues down the road that it can really cause. Of course, one of the major things is diabetes.
Right.
Diabetes, heart disease, stroke, even some cancers, colon cancer has been related to it, breast cancer. So, those are just some of the things. And, here's one of the biggest problems we've got. Our medical system is overwhelmed today. What's going to happen when we got all these, that 25% of the population or so that's in childhood has these obesity problems, and when they get to be adults, what's going to happen to the medical system? And
years ago, of course, type 2 diabetes was always called adult onset diabetes.
Right.
And they've stopped calling it that because we are seeing so many kids and teenagers that are pre-diabetic and type 2 diabetic. We see it all the time when they come in.
Yep.
And the thing is we're starting to see adult problems in kids. And actually, most of them are obese. Actually, I can say a few of them come in little skinny things. They still, because of the way they eat, they're starting to be pre-diabetic. So it's really about, the way the kids eat nowadays and their inactivity.
Right.
The inactivity of kids has changed greatly. I mean, we always talk about how when we were kids, we'd go ride our bikes and, be outside and jump on the trampoline.
I was going to say, usually nowadays you see kids with this.
Yeah, with the phone, yeah.
Yeah, either that or...
And screen time. They've linked too much screen time and TV time to all kind of problems. So that's one of the things, and then more hours that a kid spends on any devices or screens or TV, the more likely they're going to be obese and the more health issues they can have.
Right.
So that's one thing, that limiting their screen time, limiting their TV time, and making them go outside and play.
That's just like the commercial that I haven't seen it in a while, but that kid that's laying on the couch gets on the phone and calls his grandma, says, "Hey, Mom, Grandma."
Yeah.
She's behind him, walks behind him. Yeah.
How about another soda? She's like.
And that's another thing, sodas. Those used to be years ago, people didn't just drink them all the time. it was a treat.
Right.
'Cause I remember when we were kids, I mean, it was rare that we actually got one.
Yeah.
And now it's just what people drink. And so that's another thing that you absolutely, number one thing to stop is stop all those sodas. Drink water.
I think what's funny is when somebody says, you know, I want a Coke. Okay, what kind do you want?
Exactly. Well, that's the South.
Yeah.
That's the South. Northern people call it pop.
All right, this is off topic, but and that's fine. Is there a procedure to put cartilage between knees in order not to get knee replacement?
I don't think you can put cartilage. You can put some fluids in certain. They use some certain procedures to put, you know, the various fluids.
There's the hyaluronic
acids and
that they
stuff
can
like
put
that.
in the knees. And I just had somebody the other day tell me they thought they were going to have a knee replacement, and they got the hyaluronic acid injections at the orthopedics, and that knee's fine.
Yeah.
There's also, I know some people that's come in has went into, again, done some stem cell into the joints, and that makes a difference in some people too. But actually, cartilage, I don't know about that. I mean, because thing is none of that actually makes your cartilage just completely be back to normal. Yeah. But if you can actually make it to where your knee can be pain-free and functional without the cartilage, because you can go in and take out a meniscus and knee still be okay.
Yeah. And that question leads right into one of the complications of childhood obesity.
Joint problems.
You take, exactly. If you take a person that's overweight, and they put more and more pressure on that, say knee for instance, or hip, whichever, and over a period of time, might take 10, 20 years, but over 10 to 20 years, boom, you're going to see a problem. And the orthopedic, you know, if you're going into medicine, orthopedics might be a good way to go, because there's going to be a big need for it, you know, because there really is a problem.
That really is one of the big problems. You hear of the diabetes and, you know, cancers and blood pressure. You can see high blood pressure in kids today. So those kind of things, but the joints. I mean, you can look at some of the overweight kids and you can see their legs starting to bow because of holding up the weight, and they're trying to grow at the same time, and that's not good.
Right.
It's hard on the body to have that extra weight. So, you know.
So that question, you know, led right into it, and that's the kind of stuff we're going to see more of down the road, because, you know, like I say, our medical system's kind of overwhelmed now, and you know, and especially with these adult type problems in kids. And we're seeing it. And you know, one of the fastest growing chronic problems we have in America today is the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Not caused by alcohol, caused by sugar.
And we're seeing that already in teenagers and kids as well.
Really? Yeah,
a lot of it, actually.
See, they come in and had, recently, not too long ago, I had one that came in, it was a little boy, and he had fallen or something, so they did a CT scan. And when they did, they caught the liver, and they said, well, you know, you didn't break anything, but you got a fatty liver. And the parent was like, huh?
Oh yeah, we're seeing it a lot. And high triglycerides is one of the reasons people get fatty liver.
Exactly.
One of them. And we see a lot of high triglycerides in kids. And high triglycerides are a direct result of high sugar, high carbohydrate diet. There's no doubt environmental factors play a role in all this too, and the more chemicals, the way the body processes things, it's causing more endocrine problems. And when it starts getting into that, you know, the thing is that's when, you know, lab work makes a big difference in seeing. We do a lot of lab work on kids, and people always say, oh, you can do it. Yeah, you can. I mean, a baby, we can't do a full panel on, of course, because they're not, you know, you don't want to take that much blood from them, but we're talking about kids as they're getting older, definitely. And that's one way of telling what are the underlying problems. You know, what is showing up? Do they have a thyroid issue? Do they have a cortisol? That's another big problem we're seeing in kids.
Really big. Stress.
Stress hormone.
Stress?
Today's world is more stressful than ever. And I do think the FaceTime and having all the social media stuff where people find out about people instantly, and it's putting more stress on the kids, and then the cortisol goes up, and cortisol makes you hungry, and then they eat, and then, I mean, so it's a never-ending circle. So, but that will show up also on lab work.
They call it stress eating.
And then when you start looking at obesity in general, whether it's kids or adults, it lowers vitamin D levels. Lower vitamin D increases depression. So, you know, it is a never-ending circle, and it all does start back to exercise and diet. We always say that first, but doing the lab work, you can see what other underlying problems you may have. And believe it or not, people don't think about this. The more overweight people are, the more nutrient deficiencies we see. People think, well, they've got plenty of nutrition. Well, they don't have the right nutrition. So we really do see a lot of nutrient deficiencies in people that are overweight.
But
Right.
they've got a lot of stored oleic acid,
Yeah.
fat.
Oh, okay.
That's what they got
And
lost.
so there's a lot. Like I said, there's problems we used to never see in kids.
Yeah.
We've been shocked over the years because we've been doing this now for 26 years, I think.
27.
27 years. And so with that, we keep seeing it. We used to never see that, and then even in the last 27 years.
Well, like
gets
you
more and
said,
more.
the way they talked about it. When I was a student, it was adult onset. Now it's just type 2.
Now it's just type 2.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. We got another question. We'll get to that in just a moment. We're going to take a break, though, and be right back. 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. And we'll also come back with this week's special. And welcome back. It's our final segment of the show this morning. Let's go ahead and show you what this week's specials are.
Oh.
Yeah, specials.
Yeah, arabinogalactin, and actually we hadn't talked about yet. Fiber is very good for kids that are overweight because fiber does help with,
Making you feel full.
a lot of exactly, and a lot of things. And there's other fibers we have too, like called clear leaf fiber, but that's one of the big ones that we use is arabinogalactin. It also feeds your good bacteria, and good bacteria has been shown to actually help with that too. And arabinogalactin is so safe you can use it on a baby.
Infants.
And infants. And it boosts the immune system and keeps you from getting sick. So that's kind of one of the fibers we like just because it helps with overall health. Now the other one is actually the weight loss panel. If you are 21 years and younger, it's only for the kids this week.
Yep.
So it is for $35 off, which makes it $125. Normally it's $160, and if you're 21 years or younger, it will be $125 this week.
Yeah.
And that way you can see if there is any underlying problems.
And I really think that's the best way to start.
It is. That's the best way to me to start, especially if
Yeah.
you've already tried dieting, if you've already tried things. But definitely you got to do something. Got to do something different.
And even if you can't get in this week to get the test done, you can go ahead and pay for it,
Right.
get the discount, and then set up an appointment down the line.
Right.
So do
Exactly.
that. All right, we have another question. Wife has diabetes and dementia. She needs sodium drinks. What is the best to get her?
I mean, the bad thing about most of the electrolyte drinks you buy in the stores and so on, are going to have either sugar or sugar substitute in them.
Right.
And that's
And neither are good for dementia.
No, neither one. So probably find something that tea or something, even if you put a little extra unsweetened, and just put a little salt in it.
Yeah, or even just water and put a little salt and a little bit of lemon with it.
Yeah.
So, make it to where, she gets to where she likes,
Yeah.
a little bit of, and it makes it a little flat, but I have a lot of older women that come in that put salt in their water.
Yes.
And they feel so much better because getting too low is a problem as well. Now, thing is you don't want to overdo salt,
No.
but if you've done lab work and know that you need it,
Yeah.
it's okay.
And obviously she has, because
Yeah.
we see an awful lot of us older folks that don't hold sodium very well. I don't. Put me outside in this heat, and I'm like a shower. I just drenched in no time, and so I lose a lot of the minerals, and I have to take a lot of salt simply to try to maintain. 'Cause if I don't, I start cramping.
He'll just pour it in his hand and lick.
Yeah, I'll just pour it in my hand and lick it off. What the heck, just put it on anything. Cucumbers and salt I love. Okay, so that's a snack.
Oh, yeah.
Just a cucumber, just salt it real good.
And you got some nice cucumbers right
Yeah,
there.
we do,
They're
we
doing
do.
okay.
Matter of fact, I took those that you gave me home and put them in a thing of Italian dressing.
Yep.
Let them soak for a few days.
Oh,
Good.
quick pickle.
Wow.
They were great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remind me to come back, get some more.
I got plenty.
896-0713 or 800-349-0713. We've been talking about childhood obesity this morning, and a lot of it, as we mentioned, is lifestyle issues, and you got to get the kids that, they're laying around on the couch, they're playing games.
Yeah, I think it goes, the availability. If you go to any gas station, convenience store, whatever, and you're just bombarded with candy, just bombarded. I have to date myself, but when I was a kid, you just didn't have that. We did not have the availability of the things. And like she mentioned, sodas. I can remember picking up bottles along the side of the road to get money to take, because you had to take them back, you get a penny, right?
Right.
And if you got enough of them, you could actually get a soda. So that was our treat. And you had to work your fanny off to get up enough bottles to actually trade that in.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of time consumed there. But I think that's one of our biggest problems. We've got the availability of this food. It's so readily available, and it's so easy. That people say, well, here, just have a candy bar or whatever. And that's kind of a biggie, and that's lifestyle stuff.
Yep. And start cooking more at home
Yeah.
for your kids. I mean, I think cooking at home, and definitely, I think you said that you'd read that so a percentage of meals are not eaten in the home anymore.
Almost 50% of the meals in America are eaten away
Well,
from
it's
the home.
convenience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If people think it's convenient.
And promise you, they put sugar. A friend of ours has a child that's a childhood diabetic, and went to
Type
us.
1.
Yeah, type 1. Don't produce his pancreas fails, so he don't produce insulin. Goes to a steakhouse. Now you'd think, oh, we're going to eat steak. Where could you put sugar on that? Believe it or not, they ask. This doesn't have sugar on it, does it? Oh yeah, well they put sugar on it to make it glaze. So when you think you're eating just good protein,
Or it could be soaked in sugar for
it could be,
taste.
for
so
taste.
there's a lot of things
Wow,
that
I never
you
thought
didn't
of
think
that.
about that,
yeah.
right?
No,
Yeah.
I never thought
Well,
about that.
Who would have? I mean, like,
when you eat out, you get sugar all over the place
Yeah.
because
I'll use some steaks. I mean, when I do steaks at home, I put a seasoning on them, and then I'll use some A1 steak sauce.
Yeah.
You know, something like that. But as far as putting, I would have never thought of
Yeah.
that.
have you ever watched the cooking shows
watch the
on
cooking
TV?
channel and you'll see what's in the food.
They're going to
Really?
put
Yeah.
white sugar, brown sugar,
everything.
That's just in
Everything
barbecue
that's
sauce.
made.
Oh my God! You know, barbecue sauce is so loaded with sugar. It's not. It's like it's candy. You know, I mean, seriously.
So
I think you do that with barbecue, but I wouldn't think for just like a steak or something.
No, believe it or not,
and there is a book out there for people that like to read that, you know, it's about the guy that wrote it was a pediatric endocrinologist. And it's called Fat Chance. And it talks about why sugar is so bad for you. And he started seeing it in his patients and started doing tons of research and started writing books. And now he's one of the biggest
he's a guru.
out there
really
on no
is.
sugar. And actually, recently, I think he went to law school, and when people asked him why,
Well-
he said because when they sue the sugar industry, it's going to be way bigger than tobacco. So
Wow.
it is bad for your health, and people don't think about it. So that's why you definitely want to,
Yeah.
Oh boy.
yeah.
Question: when is the difference to use sodium or potassium salt?
Actually, potassium salt don't have any sodium in it.
No, potassium is potassium. Sodium is sodium.
Right.
So you know, normal table salt is sodium chloride, NaCl.
Yep.
Sodium chloride. All right, and one of the first things you learn in chemistry, I mean basic chemistry, right? But sodium is in any mineral attached to something else like chloride or whatever amino acid, or it's called a salt. So a lot of people that are on a low sodium diet will use potassium salt if they're on a restricted sodium diet, and therefore you'd have to use.
But if you need sodium, you do not want to do the potassium salt instead because you won't get any sodium.
You want something like sea salt or something like that, or
And you
Himalayan
can get
salt.
too much potassium, so you got to be careful with potassium salt as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I know, let's see here. New breakfast bar cereal companies are coming out with, is okay for someone with diabetes.
usually not. I can't say all because it depends.
I haven't
on-
looked at 'em yet.
I haven't looked yet, but
Yeah.
honestly, most of those things are still loaded. Even if it doesn't have sugar, look for how much carbohydrates.
Right.
So that's what you want to look at on a label is how much carbohydrates in
And
it.
y'all have some great snack bars and things. That
I don't even recommend
I don't
them
recommend
most of the
them.
time.
Really?
Not
I
if you-
think
not if you got
nah,
people- yeah.
I say people eat real food.
okay.
Yeah, people should eat real food.
I mean,
yep.
I like real food too.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's just me.
All right, we're about to wrap up. Got about 30 seconds. So what about next week?
How to help your circulation.
Yeah.
We're going to go from the young to the older. That's
More mature.
usually more mature
Mature.
people. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, thank you for being with us again this morning. We will see you next Monday morning at right here at 9 o'clock.
whatever time it is.
CBS. I will. Anyway, have yourself a wonderful week, and we'll see you later.
For more information on highlighting your business and services on Healthy Living South Mississippi, contact Jim Tabor at 896-1313.